allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion to open the meeting, please.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, everybody, please behave yourself accordingly. This is being recorded per the governor's order. So we could go into Google Meets if you would like. First item is Chairman's comments tonight. I will say that we do accept and we'll listen to all public comment. Public comment is limited to 5 minutes per person when it's done, and that person can only comment one time, just to try to set a little bit of rules when we're going forward. Other than that, I'm going to go to item number 2, SP 24-011-288, Pleasant Street Parking Lot Expansion, Review Draft Decision. Votes may be taken. I've reviewed the last draft decision, and we have the special conditions that we requested, so I don't see any other issues. Anybody else have any questions on that? No. Can I have a motion to accept the draft decision as done?
So made. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, new public hearing will be held at the petition of the applicant, Stoughton Planning.
Hold on. John, they voted your project.
He muted us. He looks frozen. No, wait a minute, he moved.
John, can you hear us?
James.
James.
Billy.
James?
James, can you hear us?
Yes.
They voted your project. They voted your project. Can you hear me? You're muted now. You're muted.
Your project's been, James, your project's been,
288 Pleasant Street.
Yes,
James,
they voted it, John.
it's
James,
approved.
So we're all set?
You're all set.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Question, are we going to sign that afterwards?
We'll sign it afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 3, a new public hearing will be held at the petition of the applicant Stoughton Planning Board to consider and hear public comment on the proposed amendment to Town Stoughton bylaws to amend section 3.1.4 table of use regulations to allow specific state protected uses as right within the table of uses. Can I have a motion to open this meeting, please?
So made. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bill, could you kind of go through this and
Yep.
get started?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is... If I don't have my speaker on, Karen, can you hear me? Just thumbs up. Okay, I'm not going to use the speaker. They can hear me through that. When the Attorney General was reviewing the I-2 zone, they contacted myself and the town attorney and said that there were the uses that we listed, the agriculture under C1, C2, and then E 18 and 19 are actually protected uses. And if you notice, I just carried under the wholesale, under section E 18 and 19, I just carried it over as no, and they're protected uses, so we can't, and we couldn't enforce that section of the bylaw. They would be allowed. So this is a cleanup. I have to correct, obviously, the I-2 zone, so that's what that does. And then she also recommended that we correct E18 and 19 in the industrial district. This is literally a cleanup. Even though it says no, it can still be, they can still do it.
Okay.
So this is only, it's merely a cleanup.
So our vote tonight is basically a recommendation to the town meeting, correct?
You're voting that you are recommending approval to the select board to place on the town meeting warrant and recommending approval for town meeting.
So can I have a motion to accept this change to the zoning bylaws, section 3.1.4, table of use regulation?
So made.
Have a second?
I figure I'd give you a chance.
So the motion, Mr. Chairman, is to vote, to recommend to the select board to place on the warrant and to recommend approval to town
The
meeting.
town meeting, that's what I'm sorry, that's what we're looking for, and that's
As
what
presented.
That would be that's
That
your
would be-
motion on all of them, or if you agree with them all in the future. So,
It's
just for the- for
either
the record.
it's either we are not voting to approve to the Board of Selectmen, or we are.
Yeah, we're voting to approve to the selectmen, recommend to place on the warrant,
Warrant,
and
and then-
recommending approval. to
Right,
town
and then on the other ones, it's either we're going to approve it or we're not going to approve it, so that's,
meeting.
Can we include?
all in
that-
favor?
That's to make it acceptable to state regulation. Never mind.
Yeah, I think it picks you up. This owl picks everyone up.
So I would just like in the wording to say that we're approving this because we're going to comply with.
To comply with state law.
Regulation, not that we as a board
Right.
necessarily agree with this.
Yeah, who seconded that?
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Item number 4. A new public hearing will be held, so we're done with that. I gotta close that public hearing at this point in time, because we're not doing anything further
Motion to
with it.
close the public hearing on
Item number 2, item number 3.
3.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 4. New public hearing will be held at the petition of the applicant Stoughton Planning Board to consider and hear public comment on the proposed amendment for the Town of Stoughton bylaw and Stoughton zoning map as amended through May 15th, 2024 by rezoning the following: to rezone the portions of 2341 and 2351 Central Street as identified in the Assessors Map 3, lots 111 and 112, currently zoned GB General Business Zone, to rezone to RC Residential Suburban C Zone, to rezone the portion of 36 Bay Road as identified in Assessors Map 3, Lot 108, currently zoned RC Residential Suburban C Zone, to rezone GB General Business Zone, to rezone the portions of 87, 90, and 120 Sharon Street as identified in Assessors Map 3, lots 120, 121, 122, and 130 of the currently zoned RC Residential Suburban C Zone, to rezone the General Business Zone as shown in figure number 1. Bill, could you go on and we'll go through these? Thank you. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Have a motion to open that meeting.
So made.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
This is one of the cleanup articles. The first two are right here, these where you can see my cursor. The 2 lots, they're single family. The back of their lots is zoned general business. It backs up to the new Dunkin' Donuts that's going in that had the retaining wall. You know where we are?
Yep.
Way down by Cobb Corner.
Way down by Cobb's Corner, yes. So what this article does is we'll rezone this to be all residential, because that's what it is, so it's conformity. The other thing, the next one is, this lot right here, there's a business, and then their parking lot, it's a split zone, is zoned residential. So the new zoning would bring the general business down to cover their parking lot. What the other one is you have another parcel that has a business, and then right next to it, which is this lot, it's their parking lot, it's zoned residential, so we want to look at rezoning their parking lot so their entire property they own is zoned general business. And then part of that Dunkin' Donuts property, the back part, it was zoned general business, or zoned residential, and then the bank property next to it has, some of it is residential and some is general business. So what we would look at doing is the property that's owned by the Dunkin' Donuts, all of it would then be zone general business, and the property and the parking lots associated with the bank would then be zoned general business.
Do the abutting properties to these changes, do they own these pieces of property that you want to change the zoning, or does someone else own them? Like that little triangle? Yeah.
That's actually part of 90. It's part of the bank.
Okay, so the bank does own that little triangle?
The bank owns, I will zoom in. The bank owns, if you see the line here, the pink line?
Yeah.
The two pink lines are all the property the bank owns.
Okay.
So we're rezoning the bank property, all the property there.
Actually, he's using the.
So we're not stealing a piece from somebody else to do this in any of these scenarios?
We're actually moving the zoning line to the property line.
Okay.
Because right here, the zoning lines are split in the property line.
Yeah.
We're moving. Anybody have any other questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question. Going back to actually on Bay Road, lot 36.
Wait a minute, let's stay with this one here.
Yeah, it's on Bay Road.
Oh, I'm sorry, 36 on Bay Road, you're right, I'm sorry.
And that's the dentist's office, I believe?
I think so. It's a small,
Okay. But the next lot, there was one of them that I Googled. I thought it was a dentist's office there, but I could be wrong. Okay. All right.
What about it?
It's a house. It's a house to an office. Okay, all right.
yeah. The number 30 is 36, the Bay Road. It's a house that's been converted into a small retail business or small business, and the house portion is own general business, but their parking lot isn't.
Okay.
So we're just moving it down.
Okay.
Any other comments, Chris? Paul? Anybody from the public have any questions on this piece? Okay, next part.
It's an independent article.
That's the whole article, that's the one, that
Figure one.
covers
I
everything.
separated the three of them.
It's just three
because
separate, okay, you've got A, B's, I got you.
Yeah.
So do we need 3 motions?
No,
No, we're
the
gonna
first
do-
motion is just to approve to recommend, to approve the proposed rezoning in Figure 1.
So when this goes before town meeting, will this be presented as one article, the whole thing? Or
Well, the way we did it, the way I do it in the past, it's written as one article, and so they will be voting independently on A, B, and C.
Okay.
So they will vote into one article with 3 votes to it?
One article with 3 votes.
So it's brought up, and then each one can be debated individually, questions asked individually, and then you vote on them individually.
We voted on them individually.
So does anybody have any questions on that in the meeting? No, okay, so can I have,
People are all here for C.
I'm opening it to anybody's
Oh, yeah,
comments,
yeah.
though, okay, that's, please, okay? Can I have a motion to move this towards the bill, to the Board of Select Board, per our previous conversation, for item number A?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, can we move on to item number B?
This is on Phillips Avenue. The property owner of 38 came to us, and some of these, there's one property owners, and I said, I requested the planning board want to take it up, and they did. They actually were seeking a special permit to convert, under the code, you can convert residences in the RU district to 2 families, but they were doing the expansion to
The incorrect side of the line.
and so the zoning is split zone, and it's not. So when we looked at it, it made sense. So, and then the property at 35 is also split zone. So now the recommendation is to take 38 and 35 Phillips, move the RU district to their property line, so they're all one zone, and that's what it would look like in the end.
So what about lot 151? That's got a split zone to it, doesn't it?
That's housing. It's going to be a later rezone. That's housing authority property.
Okay.
And when I started to do that, but when you look at the housing authority property and the other properties that go along, it was turning into an article that made figure 1 look small.
Okay.
So in this one, and 151 is actually zoned by the housing authority. It's on my list. I'm just taking them
Okay.
slowly.
Taking the easy ones first.
Well, it involved a lot more, and it involves a lot more outreach. So.
Right.
Anybody questions from the board?
I forget, did we issue that special permit?
No, it would be a special permit from the zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
And they've actually placed it on hold. They've continued it until the zoning is cleared up.
Gotcha.
So just so I understand the map, if you look at where it says Phillips Ave, say lot 47, I believe, that's the street number on Washington Street, right? It was a GB,
Right.
that's the Harbor One Bank, correct?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So my question leads into if you look at your dotted line, there's a little bit of space in there that's general business. But is that part of the next lot on Phillips, which is 27? Yeah, there's a little sliver there.
Yeah,
The business
And if you
goes
go on
under
the property line,
right.
is that general business?
I can add that in a future one. We can't add another property at tonight's meeting.
Okay, but should that have been, would have been, will be?
Yes, if I would
There's
have
a couple,
noticed it.
I've already mentioned, there's a couple there that he has, and he says he's gonna take up a whole separate.
right.
He's fixing this too right now, that's what he's
Yeah.
saying.
To be honest with you, in looking at it, if I would have noticed it, I should have said, yes, we'll also move 27 over, move it over 10 feet. But,
And you also have across the street.
And then 30 would have been the same thing,
It's the
so
same thing.
30 would be the same
On
idea.
Phillips. You look right above,
and 30, yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah,
You were consistent on the other map.
yeah.
It was,
We have dozens of these.
well, I know of a couple, we talked about it.
I know.
Okay.
All right, no problem.
Anything else? Any other question, Paul?
Well, no.
Any questions from the public? Okay. I have a motion to, I'm sorry,
Sure. Now, I see, was it 472? Is
47,
that zone, is that general business there too? You see how it's orange to the left of it?
so yeah, the building, there's a light line that's the actual building, 472, and you got orange around it, so that's the general business zone on both sides of it.
Okay,
That's just signifying the building.
yeah, because the other one doesn't, it doesn't go down to the property line, that's why I was wondering.
Correct, it's actually, it's because Revere Street is a paper street in that location, so you can't zone the street itself. Even though it's,
It doesn't exist.
it doesn't exist, it just exists on paper, but it doesn't exist in real.
Right. Never been any of the numbers, they're all.
Okay? No problem. Can I have a motion to move item number B to the select board, please?
So made.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Item number C.
This is on Park Street and 4th Street. We have 2 lots that are zoned industrial. It's a small cluster industrial. One of the things that the planning board has been adamant is trying to get rid of these little industrial spot zones. We did it right across the street at, on the previous one on Washington Street.
Yep.
The old factory. The 2 property owners that reached out to me and they wanted to look at general business. And general business is on the corner of 5th. So from a zoning standpoint, we can look at proposing on moving it over. So the request would be to eliminate the industrial zone and rezone the two properties to their property lines to general business. And so that is what it is proposed. And
So you'd be, also at 710, you'd be making that residential business?
710 is
It's RB, but you're going to have to move the line on that one also, correct?
it's it was within about 10 feet, so we looked at the thing. If it's within like 10 feet, like the other ones, we can just adjust it to the property line. So we're not really rezoning 710. It's we look at that from a GIS standpoint. That line could have been on the property line, and so we can look at making some of those adjustments. So this is just to rezone these two parcels, general business.
What is that building 17? It looks vacant when you, I've only pulled down here to turn around because I forgot something at home, but other than that, I haven't,
How long have you been?
57 years.
Oh, I know.
The owner of,
Oh, the Twin Key,
Hold on. Bill, excuse me, Bill, before we get to the public, I'd like the board to be able to finish their stuff, and then we'll go to the public. Thank you.
That's what it was, that was a factory building.
I think it's Twinkie Factory.
Twinkie.
Any other questions?
It was the Twinkie Factory.
They're supposed, WIN.
Oh, all right, okay. I'm thinking there's another building on, is it Third?
Actually, at one point, it went from Twinkie, closed down, and then it went to an art gallery. Right. So, right, originally, it was a- I got my first photo wig coat out of that.
So, Peter, any questions specifically on this? We don't need a history.
What I'm saying is that property, I know it, I know exactly where it is.
Okay.
And it was a factory.
and I know the two owners are here, and they'll talk, in talking with them, they would like to, and it made planning sense, they would like to look at any future redevelopment. Industrial just really didn't suit these small lots, and so they wanted to look at general business, which was adjacent, and looking at the uses that are allowed within the general business for potential redevelopment of the two properties.
And there's no interest in going straight to strictly residential because they are in the middle of a residential area.
I don't believe they would want to down zone it that much. Okay. Going from industrial to general business is a down zone, and you're eliminating all the what I call the noxious industrial uses, and you're looking at the uses that are allowed, in general business. And on smaller lots like this, you're not going to build big shopping centers. It's going to be a small scale commercial, or the code does obviously allow mixed use. But I would think a mixed-use development, somebody would have to assemble the two properties in order to look at making that viable.
Well, that's what, if you look at the lot, the back end of the lot, that'd all be in the same zone now of going with this change. Does that allow for like a multi-family house, like?
You just said it. We're going to allow mixed use.
Multifamily is not allowed in the general business. Mixed use is. So you could do a building that had commercial with, and 3 stories is the maximum allowed in general business. So you could do a building that had commercial on the first floor and residential on the 2 floors.
Is there anything to prevent that from, say, being a noisy business, like a towing company that's banging chains on their wreckers at 3 in the morning? Or...
General business has they do have noise restrictions in different things.
You could do that now in the industrial. They could do it now in the industrial.
And there's work times that are involved in that type of thing. You couldn't do it for that.
Because I got one in my backyard in a residential area that we can't.
Motor vehicle service station, including junkyards, storage, automobile, talks about different automobile uses are allowed as a special permit in the industrial district, and they are prohibited in the general business district.
Okay.
Would we have some control if it's some general business when we had to stop them from having entrance and exit off property?
Any project that comes, that's in this area, Paul, would have to come before us.
It would, once it was rezoned, any new project that would come in, if it triggered site plan review, which almost everything will, because this parking is, it's non-conforming, some of it's gravel, tack. You know, we've actually talked to the property owner about a site plan just to formalize her parking. So anything coming in would require a site plan review in the future.
No, across the Fifth Street, that building is that real estate office, the brick building.
I'm not sure.
I used to be in the is that brick building
Okay, gentlemen, please. Anything else, Paul?
No, that's it.
Okay. If nobody on the board has any other thing, I want to open up to the public, and yes, you could speak
And
first.
when you have the microphone, you need to say your name and your address so that we can get it.
Hi, Barbara Marley. I live at 16 Fifth, so it would be abutting the other one. My house is on one lot. The 2 lots behind that are conservation land. So anything beyond there is all conservation land, okay? And any other buildings that go on there would affect any, I don't know if the sewer goes down.
If it falls underneath the Conservation Board's restrictions and it
Yeah.
is wetlands,
Right.
then the project would have to go before Conservation before it comes to us and have to be either approved or restricted by Conservation.
Right. The only, as far as another building and so on and so forth, it would involve any more sewage and so on and so forth.
It depends on the type of building and
Right.
what's going in there. I can't answer that because I don't know. what's
Right, it
going
would
in.
have to be,
Again, it would have to go, that would have to go before the
Make sure
Board of
that
Health, the zone, the Conservation Commission, prior to it coming to us anyway. And then when it comes to us,
I have a leaching field on mine. I'm not hooked up to town sewage. I
correct.
have a leaching field in my backyard, which abuts that area right there.
The property owner has initiated the process to connect to sewer.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I mean. So I just wanted to make sure that my sewer, it would have to be, I didn't want it to interfere with mine on the side too. That's
Does
what-
anybody else have any other comments? This gentleman over there.
Ted Ostrander, 710 Park Street. I just wanted to know on my lot if I could reserve the right to change mine to general business at some point, just in case somebody wanted to buy the land off me to...
So you're
build something.
710?
Yeah.
So you would have to go through the same process they're going through right now, would you have to request it through us, then through town meeting to get that rezoned? That's always a possibility, but it's not nothing that we're going to be able to grant you or not grant you.
Oh, I wasn't looking to do it right away. I just wanted to see in the future if it could happen, you know? So,
From a
seller's point.
From a planning standpoint, if you came and talked to me about it, I would bring it to the board, and I would recommend that the board initiate a zoning change to make it all consistent.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. If there is none, then I'm going to ask the same question. I'm going to ask for a motion to move item C to the Board of Selectmen for the same wording as we've done for the other articles.
So made.
On the second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close this article,
Motion to
This-
close the public hearing.
this public hearing, yes. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item number,
You guys can stay if you don't want to. It's not rude to leave.
good. You can leave, yeah, we're not, we don't hold anybody here hostage, so.
My question was, what's the
So there's, in the zoning book, there's a list of items that are allowed for general business and a list of items that are allowed for industrial. So Bill has a copy of it there. You can go through that.
I will let you know when it is done.
General business is more like storefronts and retail and those types of things. And also allows to have a building that has, some type of stores and floor level, and then it goes to the
Is there a, so they can,
I would have to work out, there's a calculation with the size of the lot, how many parking spaces they can get. So they would have to bring a site plan before us to be able to understand what they're looking at.
I'm sorry, I was.
No, it's no problem. So there is, like I say, there's a zoning book there, we've got the white, you can look at the, could you give her the chart that shows the difference between the industrial and the
General business.
In our code, we have all things, there's industrial and general business.
Yeah.
So what's permitted?
How about no left turn
And there's-
when you're coming up to Park Street either?
If I could-
I almost tore that guy's Christmas sign off his fence. I couldn't see when I was trying to pull out of it.
They'll have to come back to what they're going to put on the.
Central Nursery.
Oh, any development comes back from this board through site plan review.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we can vote on that.
Huh?
Then we can vote on that.
Well, they vote on it.
we vote on, but if it's allowed, so you understand, if it's an allowed use, we can't stop the project, but we can review it to make sure it conforms to the things that meet with the zoning code. So in other words, if somebody came before us and said they want to put a general business and it meets all the requirements of general business, we can't say, no, you can't build the project. What we can do is restrict certain things, make the project look a certain way, and those types of items are in our purview. And we can't say they can't build the project.
If it's a use that's
Same as-
allowed, you can't prohibit allowed uses, but you can regulate them through
Make sure that.
that they have enough parking, they have the right stormwater management, they have the setbacks.
They have aesthetic pleasing that we
All those
want,
sorts of things.
landscaping. I mean, for example, in the industrial zone, they could have put a junkyard or a gas station or something like that there that was never put there before. So like going to general business, like it's a much smaller footprint of
Less
types of those types of uses.
It's a positive move for residents. It's closer to residential and it's away from industrial.
Well, I didn't know the difference.
That's the difference.
And I was like.
Yeah, industrial is much more like, think of it industrial like factory and warehouses.
Right.
And general business is like downtown.
Right, but I also heard that at one time they want to put this big apartment building there.
Well, if you put they would have to have a mixed use, so the most they could do is 3 stories of a building that would have residential, but it would also have to have general business. Does that be a portion of its general business?
Oh,
Usually the bottom floor is,
and will that have storage coming to there?
There is,
Again, it would depend on what's required for the site for services. So in other words, if the site needs sewer because they can't put a big enough septic system on it, then yes, they'll have to connect. They have to connect.
yeah, well, they're connecting
I
to.
have water and everything in my property, so I'm thinking.
Yeah. Any redevelopment of the site has to control their drainage and fix any drainage problems. If there's water draining off, that is a requirement of our site plan review.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'm so sorry I was late.
Can I have a motion to open up item number 5? Oh, I'm sorry, let me read item number 5 first. Item number 5, a new public hearing will be held to petition of the applicant Stoughton Planning Board to consider to hear public comment on proposed amendment to the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw and the zoning map as amended through May 15th, 2024.
No, we're number 7.
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
We're on number 7, item 7, Mr. Chairman.
I'm very sorry. Very sorry. Item number 7. New public hearing will be held at the petition of the applicant Stoughton Planning Board to consider and hear public comment on the proposed amendment to the town Stoughton zoning bylaws to amend section 2.3 overlay districts to remove flood hazard, wetlands, and watershed districts, to amend section 4.1.2 table of dimensional density regulations, to amend section 7.1.16 stormwater management, to amend Section 9.1 Aquifer Protection Overlay District, to remove Section 9.2 Wetlands Flood Hazard and Watershed Districts in its entirety, to remove Section 9.7 Floodplain Overlay District in its entirety, to propose a new Section 9.2 Floodplain Overlay District and amend Section 11.0 definitions.
Well, that's so
Have a
clear.
motion.
Do you need any on? Oh, wait, sorry.
Can I have a motion to open that meeting, please?
So made.
Can I have a second? All in favor?
Well, this one's very clear, and it's only 27 pages.
You lost me page 12.
Huh?
You lost me page 12.
Okay, I'm going to kind of give you really a quick overview on what we're doing. In the special section 9.0, we have aquifer protection, wetlands, and floodplain. Those are the three. The aquifer protection is, we are looking at removing the, it's based on a 1993 Camp Dresser and McGee environmental engineers map that was done for the town. So that's almost 40-some years ago. And we were some of the first to look at doing aquifer protection. State DEP has wellhead protections and aquifer protection zones. So what we were looking at doing is we are removing the section and eliminating the aquifer protection zones that are identified on that 1993 map. And then we are then adding the aquifer protection zones based on protection zones 1 and 2 that are regulated by the Department of Environmental and Protection. And it's for drinking water program. And then in order to be able to comply with the state regulations, it's very similar. So the section 9.11 removes the map. We're now going with the mapping that's done by the DEP, Mass DEP. And then we are looking at the uses that are prohibited and then the uses that are allowed. And then we've added those for clarity under the regulation. And I've worked with I hired a planning consultant for this section, for this particular amendment. So I can answer any questions on the aquifer protection. It's all based on the state regulations and guidelines. So we're protected for aquifer protection based on Mass DEP.
Presently, right now, when we're reviewing plans, we're reviewing per our code or per Mass DEP, which is more stringent, or?
Both.
Okay, we're doing both. Is there an overlap, or is there one more stringent than the other, or are they both pretty much the same?
I wish I'm sorry. I wish I had the maps. I'm getting ready. I'm having some maps prepared by Larry and GIS. The Camp Dresser and McGee did a wellhead protection zone 3, and that was just something that it's not defined in state law. It was something of their creation that they did back in 1993. So the wellhead protections are predominantly the same, except for some of those zone 3s, which are, and there's no definition to zone 3 in the Camp Dresser and McGee stuff.
Okay, so, but again, the state then becomes more of a restriction than this does, or this is more restrictive because it's got undefined areas?
Our current one is probably entails more area because because it has that undefined zone 3.
So we would restrict building on a further area around wellheads than they would, than the state would.
Correct. But we're relying, and a lot of it is, it's already been developed, a lot of it is, so.
I mean, yeah, there isn't a lot of areas that are around our wellheads, I mean, other than 1 or 2 that have open area around them.
Right. We reviewed them, the state wellheads protection zones 1 and 2 are all within the well areas. I think some of the zone 3, when looking at it, was like large wetland water bodies.
And I guess my next question on that is, what's the difference between this and what's in the conservation code? Was there anything in the conservation code that...
No, aquifer protection's within zone.
I realize it's within zoning, but isn't the aquifer protection also part of Concom?
I don't believe they're meeting their chapter 191, which is their town code, and then they're under the Wetlands Protection Act.
So in order to do that, we have all these different areas that we have basically have to modify in our wetlands, in our zoning code to do that. I mean, to do what we're looking to do, there's several, we're touching all of these different articles in order to be able to make this happen.
We're touching...
So we got section 2.3, the overlay districts, we're dealing with section 4.12, the table of dimensional regulations, 7.1.16, the stormwater management, is all referring to what we're dealing with this?
With this article?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going through the aquifer protection before I get to the next one.
All right, so the aquifer protection is one spot of it. Okay, I understand now, okay.
It's all in section 9.
Right, okay.
So we're essentially taking our aquifer protection and making it comply with state law.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing here. Then, on page 6, we are looking at removing section 9.2, wetland, flood hazard, and watershed districts in its entirety. This was adopted prior to the town doing their own wetlands bylaw. We have conflicts with zoning, which the zoning things in this go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, not to the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission enacted their own bylaw. So they have the Wetlands Protection Act, and they have their own bylaw. Section 9.2 is regulating wetlands in conflict with what the Concom has passed. It was done prior to having it in there. There's a conflict. We do not need to be regulating wetlands within zoning, and certain special permits and things going to the Zoning Board of Appeals on wetlands and not the Conservation Commission. So, and we are actually going in front of the conservation. We've consulted with the conservation agent, through doing all of this, and he's made aware of it. He's made his board aware. We will be presenting to the, due to their meeting schedule, we'll be presenting to them, letting them know. But in general, we are trying to get rid of conflicts. The town engineer, Mark, who I work for, this was one of the things when we had to look at addressing the floodplain, which is we're going to do also tonight, is he wanted to clean up the aquifer protection and make it comply with state law. We want to get rid of wetlands bylaw in zoning because it
doesn't meet you.
mimics and it does some, it overlays and mimics a little bit, but then it also has conflicts. And the Concom isn't the authority. The Concom has their wetlands bylaw and they have the Wetlands Protection Act. Some parts of this are in conflict and should be removed. So that's what we're looking at doing. So do you have any comments on like the wetlands? That's why this thing's so long.
Are we gonna break this up into A, B, C, similar to what you did? Why not?
Yeah, town meeting's going to have a
I
problem
just
with
think,
this.
I just think they're gonna be very lost in this. If we're sitting here in a small group and you're trying to work your way through this, you try to get to town meeting, it's gonna be even worse.
I can look at writing the final article to do that. That's something you could recommend if you wanted to do it that way.
I'm looking at how you're trying to explain this, and I think if it's easy enough to break up, this has one issue, this has a secondary issue, and then we're going to get on to a third issue. I think if you get 3 separate issues, then it should show as 3 separate items.
Okay.
So 9.2 is going to be eliminated.
Correct.
Where is it covered?
In the conservation group.
It's covered under on Town of Stoughton General Bylaw, Chapter 191, Wetlands Protection.
Okay, because that should be made note in the article. But this is,
I can't do it. I can make it in the presentation, but not the article.
okay, well, that's it, in the presentation.
And that's part of the reason I'm saying, let's break this up, so that you can do A, B, C, that you're...
I can do that.
Yep.
Well, okay.
Go ahead, go on to the next one, but I just think that, the way I'm looking at it in my mind, the Wetlands Protection Act and the Aquifer Protection are 2 different issues, unless you tell me what my original question was whether the Aquifer Protection is part of the Concom, and you said it's not. So that's why I'm trying to think of how is it separate issues? How isn't it separate issues?
One of the questions concerned, again, I kind of looked through it and I kind of got lost. But if you go to page 7, 9.2.4, item 4, for example, grazing of livestock. You know, it looks like that whole section being stricken out of it. Then that's routine operation maintenance.
Everything in 9.2 is being removed.
Right.
But it's covered
It's
somewhere
covered in the
else.
conservation code.
That's all covered.
Okay. And I think, here's where I'm going with this. I see town meeting, you have people that have farms, people that have different areas, they are gonna...
Yeah. Well, the presentation would be, we are removing section 9.2 wetlands, which is regarding wetlands, because it is in conflict with the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Bylaw. And so it is duplicative and in conflict. And so the wetlands are all covered under Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Bylaw. And then having it in the zoning, this was done prior to that, and it needs to be removed. When they approved the wetlands, when town meeting approved the Wetlands Bylaw, they should have removed this, and they didn't.
Can I ask you, I jumped forward to page 18, which is the floodplain overlay district. Is that what we're instituting as opposed to what we...
No, you're not instituting anything in addition. This is being removed because the law already exists on the Stoughton books.
So all of this on page 18...
We'll get to that.
We haven't gotten to that yet, Paul.
All of 9.2.
That's 9.2.
No, 18 isn't.
No, it's 9.7.
9 points. Okay. Oh, well, it looks like 9.2 to me.
Yeah, 9.2.
Yeah, 9.2, but we're removing 9.6.
Oh,
You know something, you're right. You got the numbers wrong, Bill.
well, no, I don't.
Or you're replacing 9.2 with this.
I'm
Replacing the number with that.
removing 9.2 wetlands.
Yeah.
Then we're removing 9.7 floodplain overlay in its entirety.
But I was just looking at...
And then I'm replacing, because the state has a model floodplain bylaw, I'm replacing the floodplain bylaw, since I've removed 9.2 for numbering, I'm replacing 9.2 with the model state floodplain bylaw. So in essence, what we're doing is we are taking the aquifer protection zone, making it comply with state law, removing the wetlands section 9.2 because it's in conflict and it's already covered in two places already, one in state law and one in the wetlands thing. The floodplain section 9.7, I'm removing it in its entirety because we're replacing it with the state's model floodplain bylaw, which is a requirement of FEMA. And so for numbering purposes, I will then, because I'll have 9.2 is now vacant, I'm now replacing.
You're moving forward.
I'm moving it forward for numbering purposes.
Okay.
And that's part of the, again, I think that's part of the reason why it should be broken up so people do understand how you're doing it.
Now, with that understanding, it took you so many minutes to explain to us. If you were to, and I'm throwing this out there as a suggestion, you know how you put draft watermarks on paper? Mm-hmm. If you were to go and put removed on the stuff that's being removed in black, in a watermark, and then when you come to the part that's new, I'm trying to think of the word. In other words, this is going to replace or moved up, or this has been renumbered. As a watermark, so quick glance they realize this is the replacement. And it's
Well, the article is the cross out and the bold underline. That's
Like I said, right, that's
it's
why
a function of how the article.
I think with the crossouts and the bold you've got, but I think what happens is in my opinion, you threw everything into it, which you needed to do, but it needs to be spelled out in a sequential fashion, A, B, C, in order that people are understanding why.
Well, the problem is if they don't remove the wetlands, 9.2, then how do I re-add floodplain?
If they don't remove, well, I don't understand.
Because for numbering sequence.
Yeah, but numbering to me is and I understand.
But the way it is approved is the way it has to go in the book.
Correct.
So the reason, they're all interdependent, that's my...
I realize that, but for you to be able to, for people, if I didn't know what we were trying to do and I'm not in the zoning, we are. If I'm not in zoning, I would look at this as you guys don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not approving anything.
The way I would essentially adjust, I was just trying to go for you in detail line by line. The way I would present this, I would say this article is taking three objectives. We're taking the aquifer protection, which was based on a study that's 40 years old, prior to Mass DEP. We are making the aquifer protection comply with state law. Section 9.2, our wetlands in zoning is in conflict with the existing wetlands bylaw that's in town code and state law. We are recommending to remove it. 9.7, floodplain district. We have brand new FEMA maps that are coming out. We are required by the state and the federal government to have a model floodplain bylaw. Our current bylaw does not meet that. I'm recommending that you remove the current bylaw 9.7 in its entirety. Since we're going to be getting rid of, if you get rid of 9.2 for numbering sequence, I'm recommending the new floodplain bylaw that has been reviewed by the state and FEMA that complies with their requirements. I'm recommending that be approved.
You know where I see this going, because it's coming through FEMA? You have a puddle in your backyard a month a year. Now you're going to be required to have flood insurance.
I'm going to tell you, the flood maps have changed very little. There's some of the maps have changed. Some of the maps aren't even changing. In order town meeting, in order to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program for the town, we need to adopt the new maps and adopt the model bylaw. If town meeting chooses not to adopt the floodplain bylaw and the new maps, then the town of Stoughton will not be allowed to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. It's not about a puddle in your backyard.
Well, there is a connection I was getting at, though.
And the puddle in your backyard might be a wetland, but it's not a floodplain.
So, in addition, with that, you have to change definitions to meet the state floodplain overlay district.
To meet the floodplain.
Right, so now,
There are certain definitions that are in the model bylaw that are not in our bylaw now, and we're adding those.
but we're removing some also.
And yes, and we are removing like new construction, the definition is different. We do not need to specifically list flood hazard zone areas because those are already listed in the federal guidelines, and they're recommending to take them out.
So the definitions, the way that they're done, has that been reviewed by the state, and there's no conflict with the present definitions of all the other things within our town zoning bylaws?
Correct.
I mean, I'd have to review it. I'm asking
No.
a question, that's why.
The floodplain definitions are in the definitions, and
Okay. So I think unless there's something else that is in here that you need to cover. So the wording for the article, the way you've written it right now, is the way it's written in item number 7?
yes.
And it's too late to amend it? We haven't even gone to, this is the first public hearing we're having on it. How could when?
Oh, no. You can,
So I might say, is there a way of amending it to do it in the, I understand that you're saying one needs to happen before the other, but I still think to get this approved and make that happen, it needs to get broken into a 3-section piece. And when you amend this or change this article before it goes to the Board of Selectmen to be able to get understanding of it.
okay.
That's-
So I guess two things I want to look at doing here. One is, do you disagree with the substance of it?
I don't disagree with the substance of it, no.
Okay. It's the wording of the article. The presentation, well, it's the
Wording and presentation.
This one's complicated.
Yeah, it's wording and presentation, but I think it's less complicated if you take it in small chunks.
Okay. I will look at revising the article to do an A, B, C type thing.
That's what we left to say.
In layman's terms for town meeting as best you can.
And we're going to do that. We'll have the map. Here's the old map. Here's the new map. This is that. And then the only one thing that we're added at the beginning, on the stormwater management, since that was when that section 7.1.16 was written. Since then, we've adopted a stormwater bylaw, which is in Town Code, Chapter 159. So we're just updating that and referencing that. That was just a house cleaning item.
Like I say, I think you've got a lot in here, Bill. I think it makes it look complicated because of the way that it is, and I don't think any of us disagree with what you're trying to do, but in order to get there and vote to town meeting, let's try to clean it so we get it properly.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Quick question,
So you don't have to vote this one, we'll have this,
Bring it up on the next meeting.
yeah.
on page 23, under recreational vehicles. If you go to C, designed to be self-propelled or permanently towed by a light-duty truck. Now, just because a light-duty truck, I mean, you see some of these pickup trucks that, F-350, something like that, someone could very well tow a camper. It would be a recreational vehicle. So I don't know why, I'd strike the word light-duty.
That comes right from the model bylaw.
But light duty, it says it could be done by light duty, it also could be done by heavy duty.
It can be done by heavy.
Any
It can be
vehicle.
done.
In other words, they're saying that's the minimum of a light duty.
It needs a minimum.
Where I said is, because it says, all right, I just saw the light duty is like.
This definition is from the state and the feds.
But the light duty is just a minimum.
Change it, then they'll flag it.
Okay.
So,
And then the only thing you see highlighted in yellow is the map approval dates, which should be coming this month. So I will look at,
well, what we'll do is right now, why don't we take a motion just to continue item number 7? All right?
I'd like to make a motion to continue this until, do you have a date?
it would be January 30th. That is the last Thursday of the month. Our normal meeting would be the 23rd, but I'm gone and I need to be here to present this.
So,
Are you trying to get this in for this?
this is for the annual.
I have to.
Okay.
The FEMA bylaw has to be approved at the Maytown meeting.
Right, that's what I'm asking.
It has to.
So you have to have,
So the 30th, we have to look at
So we can
finalizing.
have a motion to continue this to the 30th.
motion to continue to January 30th.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
However long that meeting takes, because we have to submit these to the select board that next Monday.
Item number 8, a new public hearing will be held on petition of the applicant Stoughton Planning Board to consider and hear public comment on the proposed amendments to the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaws. It will provide for the establishment of the new Section 7.2 accessory dwelling units to establish regulations, including changes in Sections 3.1.4 Table of Use Regulations and Section 11 definitions. Can I have a motion to open this meeting?
So made.
Second? All in favor?
As you know, this summer, the state passed the ADU bylaws. They're done as of right. The state is promulgated, and I gave you their I emailed you their presentation and their draft regulations. I've been working with, the guidance from the state. I've been working with the town attorney to look at, getting something that we feel complies. Table of uses, what we're looking at is temporary additional living area is essentially used to be the mother-in-law apartment. That was the section of the bylaw. So ADU really replaces that. So what we're doing is we're replacing 7.2 with the ADU bylaw. So you have to change the table of use from temporary to accessory. So remove the current 7.2 and replace it with the accessory dwelling. I've taken the purpose section from state law. I've taken the various limitations that are allowed as of right. Section 722 comes right out of various, it's state law. Section 7.
Let me ask a question. 7.2.2.5, how do we enforce that?
That's,
How is that enforced?
If we notice, if it's It's in state law.
I understand, and I'm questioning the state law, I don't care, I'm just asking the question, how does any town enforce that?
If somebody starts to try to use it as a short-term rental, if a neighbor complains, then we can take an enforcement action. If we see it on,
Well, who's we?
the code enforcement,
Okay.
That would be
What mechanism,
building department.
right, what mechanism are we giving him for enforcement? Does he have a fine of $50 a day, $1,000 a day? What's he allowed to do
It's-
in enforcement? And I'm asking this question because it's, right now, I think it's one of the questions that should and needs to be answered at some point in time.
it's,
Is it something we can put in the code to give to them? Is it something we should put into the code to give to them? Is there, because what I hear for all the time, and this is from the code enforcement officers, we have no, there's nothing for them to be able to do. They can tell people, they write them a letter, they do this, they do that, and everybody just snubs their nose at them.
Or the fine is so small, they take it as a cost of doing business, too.
It's basically a dog and
well, actually, we can pull their occupancy permit.
That's a legal proceeding. I know, I'm just
Building
saying,
commissioner can go after, because they would be in violation of town bylaw and state law. And we would go through the zoning enforcement actions. You may not like some of that. If you wish to change the fines, that's a separate place in town code you need to look at. If you want to increase the fines to make it hurt. But we can go through and pull their occupancy.
I'm not sure the mechanism for pulling occupancy. On that, on a zoning violation, I'm not sure you can do that. I have to look at that,
Well, we would go through our normal zoning procedure.
I just,
And look at trying to shut it down.
So what you're saying is, the town would have to be informed by a neighbor, or something would be...
Or if we knew, or if we saw it advertised on Airbnb or VBRO. I can, we don't allow short-term rentals now. And I can go online, I already, I can go on, you can go.
my point is, you could find 100 of them in town.
Huh?
You can find 100 of them in town.
Yeah.
Well, that's the issue is, you now have X amount of hours to work, and for you to start going to Airbnb, looking for this, or the code enforcement officer, they don't have enough time in the day to do that. So, with that being said, it now becomes a neighborhood issue with one of the neighbors has to...
If anyone complains, it's like any zoning violation. You can't write a bylaw that's ironclad. You put it in there, it can't be used. State law lists, you can't use it as short-term rental. It's a zoning enforcement matter, and we just have to follow the zoning enforcement process.
If they are going to use it at Airbnb or Airbnb, can they pull a permit to do that?
The next article does.
Okay.
The next article, after this one because we do not list short-term rentals in our code. That's the next bylaw that we're going to be talking about. And the reason why I added short-term rental bylaw is because we don't list it in our code. It's silent. We have them. They need to be regulated. And the problem is ADU law specifically said they can't be used for short-term rentals, so then I'm going to have somebody come and talk to me and say, well, where are they allowed? And I'm like, okay, well, if we pass this bylaw, you can get a short-term rental through a special permit with the zoning board of appeals.
That goes through the zoning board.
This is short-term rentals, but we're not talking about that.
Right, no, but I'm just saying, okay.
But in order I added short-term rentals as a separate article
Yeah, I understand why you did that, yeah.
because state law specifically says they're not allowed as ADUs, and then somebody's going to say, well, how are they allowed? And we have two zoning enforcement actions against short-term rentals right now.
And those have been around for a while.
They've been put on hold until this bylaw passes.
Okay. So, ADUs.
So
7.2.5, the dimensional requirements, is that state dimensional, or is that something we put in place?
what?
So 7.2.5, is that the
I
state?
was going to 7.2.3.
Okay.
That state law says that to do a second one, you have to do special permit, so I just put it in there that that if somebody wishes to ask for a second one, it's not allowed, but it's there's this process.
Why would we have it go to the Board of Appeals and not the zoning board? I'm not the planning board.
Because it's single-family residential, and almost everything that we deal with right now, if you're in the RU district and you want to go to a two-family, that's a special permit from the Board of Appeals, not planning board. So I felt that it's all single-family, and the Board of Appeals really does variances and special permits dealing with single and two-family. So that's the reason why I put it in there. Because there's no site plan review, so I didn't see it within our purview. It's kind of the rest of the code when you're dealing with single family. It's all with the Board of Appeals. So that's why I put it in there. The appearance, and a lot of this comes from some of it that talks about second in state law about doors and upper floor accessory structures and the entrances and those sorts of things comes from things. 7.2.5, that is not in state law. That is really,
It's a Stoughton.
my first draft at this.
Okay.
In that, I really feel that that if it is attached to the building, it needs to meet the setbacks of the principal structure. That makes it. A detached cannot be located in front of the front line of the principal building. That we have in our accessory buildings code section. So you can't build a shed in your front yard. I feel that you shouldn't. I'm just kind of being consistent that we shouldn't put that in there. The next one is we looked at reducing for a detached. Well, you have to be 10 feet from the principal dwelling. That's the building code. And then we looked at 15 feet from the rear and 10 feet from the sideline for a detached one. Currently, an accessory garage or shed can be 5 and 5. And we looked at we're recommending 15 and 10. And if you look at the code for setbacks in the residential district, a vast majority of the side yard setbacks in most of the residential districts are 15 feet, and we're recommending for a principal structure, and we're recommending 10. So it's 5 feet less than what the principal house would be, and
5 feet more than the shed.
5 feet more than the shed and 5 feet less than the house.
Yeah.
Essentially. Our rear yard setbacks in all of the residential districts are extremely, extremely large. They're 40 feet in every district except for the RA, which is 50 feet. That's based on these lots being over an acre in size, and they're just not. So we're recommending 15 feet from the rear.
Let me ask a question. If, like you said, a lot of these lots are not over an acre that are in those. So basically, they're going to be coming before zoning anyway because they're in a lot that's, existing non-conforming.
Oh, legal non-conforming. These are allowed as of right.
Right, but, so if you have an existing non-conforming lot, and you go to build on it, and say I want to put an addition on the house outside of an ADU.
Oh, and they can't.
They can't, they would have to go before zoning.
They'd have to get a variance.
So they would get a variance, so the same thing would exist here.
If you wanted to make it, if you didn't want to reduce if you did not wish to reduce the setbacks for detached.
Correct.
So it's non-conforming right now in this town is a 30-foot setback.
What?
30-foot setback from the front yard.
But the-
Non-conforming to this town.
20,
30 feet, because my house is 30 feet setback, and I couldn't build an overhang at one. And then-
But he's
Well, it
saying.
depends.
if you wanna
It's
talk about the
25,
front yard-
35, and 40. Depends on the district. The residential zones vary from 40, 35 to 25 for front yard.
But what I'm saying is that, so my existing non-conforming is 30-foot setback at my house. If I want to be an ADU, I could do it at a 30-foot setback, or you didn't want to write it so it would be a 40-foot setback or something.
You talk about the front yard or the rear yard? Paul?
Front yard.
The front yard, you can't build this, all he said, he didn't say the setback, he said, the building can't be beyond the front line of the house.
Yeah, so there'd be no putting it in the
You
front.
can't put it in the front yard.
In the front. So your existing
You
non-conforming,
could do it to the side.
you could do it to the 30.
Do we want to allow, I mean, is there something you could write to say, if you do it in an ADU, you would like it to be set back further than the front of a non.
That's what he did, that's what's on here. It's already written in here.
It's written on it that way, okay.
It's written so that it can't be beyond the front line of the house.
It has to be behind the front line of the principal house. Whether yours is non-conforming,
Right.
so it would have to be 31 feet, not 30.
So it doesn't have to be 31, it has to be at least a foot.
It has to be behind it has to be,
Right.
Does that include the staircase or not?
No, it does not include, it doesn't include the staircase. Your line of your house does not include porches or
Including
staircase.
overhang for a porch.
So, I get, I'm trying to get to the point of where I am. The lots that are existing non-conforming, if you go to add on to them, you have to go for a PL.
you can't meet the setbacks.
Right. So my point is here, if we can't meet the setbacks here, they're going to have to go, well, even if they can meet the setbacks, on some towns, I'm not sure the way that Jack rules in this town all the time, but when you're existing non-conforming, no matter what you do to that structure,
No.
even if you can meet the setbacks, they do go after it.
No.
I've been in towns that,
Yeah, but not here.
okay, I didn't know what Jack
So
dealt with.
what we purposely chose that the detached was somewhat smaller, reduced setbacks than the principal dwelling. That's what this recommendation is.
One other question as far as utilities. I'm not sure, I didn't see it. Can they tie into an existing septic tank, or do they have to?
If they tie
State
it,
law, they have to meet
Title
Title V. So if the septic tank is large enough and can comply, then yes.
Okay,
Most of the time, probably not.
correct.
One more question here. 7.22, item number 3.
7.22, we're going back. Okay.
The square footage, one half of the gross square floor area. I think I did read that some of the ADUs that closed in other towns, that they included the basement as to what it is.
It's however we include gross floor area.
Right, okay, so that makes a big
It's,
difference.
it's however, whatever we're including.
but you only can get up to 900 square feet.
I think it's,
Right.
the gross floor area, I think is livable area.
A 1,200 square foot house is limited to 600 foot for ADU.
Correct.
Including the basement, then you can go to the 900.
It, well, depends on,
I saw it.
you have to have an 1,800 square foot house to have a 9, or greater to have a 900 square
Right,
foot
but if you had a
ADU.
1,200 square foot house, including the basement, if you went on first floor, not including the basement,
We'd have to look at the definition of gross, do we have a definition?
It's whatever the assessor and the building commissioner consider the gross
Gross
floor
floor
area.
area.
If the building commissioner says, oh, it's got a 4-foot ceiling in the basement, that's not considered livable gross floor area, then
If
it's
it's
not.
a finished basement, then it
If
does.
it's finished basement, oh yeah. That would be part of your gross floor area. But these basements that aren't finished, that are like 4 feet and those sort of things.
Do we need to specify something to that effect?
No, gross floor area, well, if you look at the assessor's card, there is actually a spot on the assessor's card that says gross floor area.
It's based on that.
Okay, so again, my house, I got 7 foot downstairs in the basement. If you look at the gross foot area, it's 1,200 feet, square feet.
The reason, because your basement's only 7 feet, to be a legal room, you have to be 7'2". Now, any room, basement, attic, or anywhere, to be considered a room has to be 7'2".
It's whatever the assessor and the building code consider gross floor area. So
7'2".
that's how.
And I shouldn't say, there is certain towns that change it. I don't think we have that definition, but in the building code, I believe it's 7'2". 7'3" is your minimum area. Kitchens are allowed to be 7'2". 7'3" is your minimum living area.
And then under the rest of the dimensional, we went with the same, the 1.5 stories and 20 feet in height. That's what we have now. So I will let you know. These are allowed as of right. So making a requirement that's too onerous and that's like they put in the guidance because a lot of people talk about site plan review and they're like, do you require a site plan review for single family? No. Well, then that's going to be too onerous. So, like where I worked in Fall River, they did require a site plan review for single family, so they could do it, but we can't. So,
Or should we?
And then parking requirement, it's, the state law says a minimum of 1 in addition to whatever is in the underlying district. So the house needs to meet, if you have a house that can't meet their parking requirement, then they can't provide.
If you're taking a garage, converting that garage was intended to be the original house.
Well, but if your driveway could accommodate the 3 or 4 cars, or however you're going to do it, you'd have to add too. So you have to do that. And then the numbers 2, it's in state law. If it's within a half mile of the rail station, then no parking is required. Now, one of the things that we added as a single driveway can serve both the principal dwelling and the ADU. But you could come off of that and have a separate parking area if you wanted, like one in the back. And then lots that front on more than one road may have a second driveway on the other road. But they can't have a driveway. If a corner lot, you could have a second driveway, but you couldn't have 2 driveways on the one road. So that's how we looked at recommending for the.
Saying you can't have 2 driveways on a single-family house on a.
Correct.
What about these circular driveways? Does that count as 2 driveways, or is that?
If it's an 2 existing driveways, then you're fine.
Right.
But they cannot create a second driveway
To satisfy that.
out of that. They need to use the single driveway. Unless they live on a corner lot, then they could. We do not want to have a proliferation of driveways all over the place.
Yeah, block and sidewalk use.
Yeah.
There's no sidewalks, don't worry about it.
And then we added a section in there that the use of an existing accessory structure, the Board of Appeals may issue a special permit as provided for in the section 10.5 of the zoning bylaw for a detached ADU proposed within an existing structure, such as a detached garage that does not meet the ADU requirements within this section. So if somebody wanted to convert their existing garage and they didn't meet the setbacks, that would be a discretionary special permit. but they could tear the garage down and comply. We feel that that is not unreasonable. Some of this stuff is worried about if it's unreasonable. And then the servability section is just standard. So I think the crux of the matter that I hear is, do you want to look at reduced setbacks for the detached? I know there's been a fair amount of discussion on that.
I think the issue there is going to just be that when you have the larger lots right now that require 30 and 40-foot setbacks in the rear, and then you're going to tell them they're going to go 15 feet. And how that's going to affect with these IOP, for
How that's going to affect what?
how that's going to affect the lots and the neighborhoods and everything else, because some of the, I think that has to almost get taken up on a I would feel a case-by-case basis. I know you can't do that within the zoning code, but just to put a blanket statement and say 15-foot yard setback for an area that's been zoned 40-foot yard setback, kind of.
But this is for an accessory building.
I realize
We allow almost hardly any accessory structure. We felt that it was a middle ground.
Yeah.
That, and these things are a maximum of 900 square feet. We kind of did the middle ground on the side yard setback, and then the rear yard setback. They're 40 in every zone and 50 in the other one. And then we looked at 15. If you want to cut the middle ground the way we did, we could look at changing it to 20. I don't know what you guys want to look at then.
Do we want to encourage it or discourage it?
That's really the question.
Well, I'm going to let you know that the state is very adamant on some of these things regarding unreasonable regulations, and I believe that if you said that we're going to look at doing the setback, it has to meet the setback of a principal structure, they will say that's an unreasonable regulation. That's my feeling. That's why I look at trying to...
Why would you think it would be unreasonable regulation?
Just based on the presentation, the way questions were asked in the presentation with the state.
But they're the ones that made a statement in one of these things that it has to meet the existing zoning setbacks. That was one of their criteria to this, is that they wanted to meet existing zoning setbacks. So if that's the criteria, now we're increasing that criteria by giving them more. I just want to see where we are. Because I thought I read somewhere when we were going through this, when you and I were going through this initially, when it came down, that it had to meet existing setbacks.
I think that's attached for principal structure. So,
Well, because I think at that point there wasn't, the detached wasn't defined.
and obviously we don't have to, approve this tonight. But I would like some direction that you want on certain things.
On the lot coverage, where it says the portion of a lot expressed as a percentage, what is that referred to?
Where's,
That's on 722A, section 11, definition. So there is a provision where we would use percentages. Is lot coverage.
yeah. It's the percentage. Our lot coverage is always percentage.
It's in the code that way, Paul.
Yeah.
So what is it? I don't know. Yeah.
It changes depending on the area you're in.
In our code, we require, in the general business district, we require 10% open space, maximum of 70% building area. in the residential zone, in the RA zone, we require a maximum, only 20% of the lot can be covered in building, and 50% has to be open space. That's already in our code.
Okay.
So that's just letting you know that's expressed in
Be
a
limited, you have to look at one ADU, on some properties, right?
the ADU is not changing the percentage, so,
But I think the lot size before, going back to the 70s, the lots were like, 15,
right.
so
You probably wouldn't need that because the house itself in the driveway is already
Right.
cobbled.
Some of these smaller lots, even with this as-of right bylaw, they won't be allowed because they can't meet it.
right,
They can't meet it.
Right.
but you have to state, you have to have something here saying, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
Can do.
yeah.
Can I ask a question? Can an ADU be carved out of an existing dwelling?
No. To make a separate lot?
No, to make a separate unit without adding on or doing anything, if you carved out the inside of a
Yes.
single family and created an ADU.
You could create that.
Okay.
The in-law apartment, what you say.
Yeah, you could create that.
So they don't have to be family, they could be,
You
change.
It's not necessarily, if you had a big enough house, yeah, you could create an ADU within your existing house. I think some people might look at doing them, you got the colonial with the garage, and they'll convert the garage into the ADU, and then they'll add a garage. I think people are worried that you're going to turn, the states, I think people are worried that you're going to turn the single-family zone into the duplex zone. And I don't believe you're going to do that. I've worked in other states and other communities where we've had accessory dwellings, and they didn't, it wasn't as blanket. You're in construction. I'm being told by the building commissioner that just to convert a garage, a two-car garage, that you're looking probably at least $50,000, if not more. And they said, in some of the seminars that we've seen put on by these companies that are trying to push ADUs, these prefabbed and redone ones that are for detached, they're over six figures. So you're looking at, 50 to 75,000 to convert a garage, right? And you're looking at 100 to 200,000 to build a detached 900 square foot building.
Right.
These aren't cheap. So
They're cheaper than a son or a daughter going to buy a $500,000.
yeah, they are.
And this is what the whole ADU is all about.
It's for right housing.
Affordable housing.
Yeah, we've had some people come in, they're looking at it, and they're older, retired, and they got a big house, and what they really want to do, they want to build the ADU, move in, and have their kids live in the house.
Like, it doesn't have to be their kids, it could be anybody.
Yeah, but
There's a lot of that.
we've gotten a lot of inquiries into that.
And that's what I think the whole law was geared up
So,
for.
yeah, but it's effective, February 2nd. What we can do is, since we've advertised this bylaw, whatever we put forth to the select board, you have to vote it by the 30th. We can enforce that from February 1st on. And then that's the way state law is. We will enforce it.
So this does not have to go before town meeting?
Yes, it does.
It does.
There's a section in state law, when you pass a new bylaw, when you advertise a new bylaw, there's a grace period between the advertisement, public hearing, and town meeting approval.
Yeah.
And you're at your peril because there's a zoning freeze on it. So essentially, the way they look at it is, we will, even though this is not approved by town meeting, come February 1st or February 2nd, when the law takes effect, since I've advertised this, whatever you as a planning board approves on the 30th is what we in the building and the planning department will be enforcing from February on, and then it will ultimately become law, whatever's ultimately voted.
Provided it gets approved by town meeting.
Yes, it has to be approved by town meeting.
So if it doesn't get approved, then you go back to you revert back to.
Well, the state law is going to take over, and then you're going to get stuck with whatever the state law says. And the interpretation of state law.
So municipal regulations would probably have to look at this as far as town meeting.
Well, that's done, that's, yes, they look at all that.
Okay.
So, at this point in time, do we want to continue this to the next meeting for further review, or to have Bill make any changes, or are we okay with the way it is now and we can vote on it?
I'm okay with it the way it is now.
I'm okay with it. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this as presented by Bill.
To push on to the Board of Selectmen,
Selectmen and town meeting.
Selectmen and town meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous vote?
Unanimous vote. You got it. Item, can I motion to close that meeting, please?
Motion to close the meeting?
Not the meeting.
No, the motion to
public
close
hearing.
the article.
Sorry about that.
To close that hearing.
Strike
That
that
hearing.
from the minutes.
To close that hearing.
Second.
All in favor? A new public hearing to be held to petition the applicant, Stoughton Planning Board, to consider and hear public comment on the proposed amendment to Town of Stoughton zoning bylaws to provide for the establishment of new Section 7.5 short-term rental units, to establish regulations and definitions, including changes to Section 3.1.4 Table of Use regulations. Can I have a motion to open the meeting?
So made.
All in favor?
Aye.
As we discussed before, state law and the ADUs specifically say short-term rentals can't be done. Well, so I decided that I think it's wise, and we have 2 zoning enforcement actions to look at regulating short-term rentals. So the first thing, the table of use, it's just adding short-term rentals as table of use. The table of uses, I would recommend that it's a special permit from the Board of Appeals, and it's not permitted in the multifamily district. It's allowed in the single-family zones, RU, RC, RB, and RA, and it is not allowed in any of the business or industrial districts, because we don't allow residences, single-family residences in those districts. So that's that. It's not an as-of-right use, it's a special permit. I've kind of taken different bylaws that I've liked, and I've kind of put a purpose behind it. I've added a section of specific definitions for, which is a 7.5.2, and those are just definitions that go further into the code. Pretty much the general regulations for short-term rentals, they require a special permit, and they're only allowed in districts where single-family homes are allowed. And the special permit is only to the applicant of the thing. We do not want it to run with the land of the house to be able to sell it to somebody else. If you sell a house with an ADU in it, or not an ADU, a short-term rental, it's based on the way the code's written. It's the operator and different things. So that is something that we don't want it to run with the land. We want it to be with the actual applicant. So if the applicant sells, then it goes away. It can only be done in a lawful dwelling. It can't be allowed within an accessory building or an accessory dwelling unit. So we don't want to allow them in garages. They need to have a minimum of one off-street parking space. Events and tents and those sorts of things are not allowed because we don't want them to be accessory dwelling and wedding venues and different things. They have to meet all the building fire codes and general bylaws and pay taxes. And then other things about making physical improvements for the building, fire, and Board of Health. They cannot have any external evidence or any sign other advertising for the use. They can create excessive noise, fumes, odors. It's kind of the standard noxious things that are elsewhere in our code.
Can we just go back to 7.5.3.3?
Three? Okay.
May only be established within a principal dwelling unit. I use the word lawful, it kind of confuses because an accessory dwelling unit is lawful.
Okay, a principal.
Principal dwelling unit.
I think I had the attorney look at it, and I think he changed it from principal to lawful.
But an accessory dwelling unit is lawful.
But if you look in there,
I know it, but
it
it's
shall not be
excluded.
allowed in an accessory building or an accessory dwelling unit. So we cover it. I believe I had principal, and I believe he changed it to lawful.
Typical attorney.
Huh?
Typical attorney. I just don't understand. They don't understand where they're doing.
I'm going to ask. I'm going to
I
ask.
think it's lawful slash.
They want you to question something just so you look at it and you question. It's like, okay, why would you do that?
That's how they did business. The special permit, who issues that special permit?
Zoning Board of Appeals. Because it's the same thing. It's all in single-family districts. You know, the planning board is really multifamily, commercial, industrial, site plan review, and those sorts of things.
What I'm looking for is the other thing, because I had my cottage I rented out, same idea. And for the state of New Hampshire, I had to get a tax ID number. Because now you have to report that as income.
That's a state thing.
Right, but
I don't think we should get into business of taxes within the zoning bylaw.
okay.
I don't want to say, oh, you have to have state taxes. That's a state thing. However they want to tax it or ID, that's not zoning, that's operation.
So all these here that we approved, these also go before zoning, right?
Well, you won't approve any of them.
No, but zoning also is,
Zoning Board of Appeals would approve any and all of them through a special permit process. So they're not allowed as of
these
right.
changes that we're looking at,
This is brand new. We don't have this in our code.
right, but it's not just us. Zoning also has to approve.
No. Town meeting.
No.
Planning board create, planning board,
I have given this,
but in the way it is, planning board creates the planning, the zoning articles. Our purview is to create the zoning articles. Zoning Board of Appeals all they do is enforce it.
Okay, all right.
I
They're the
routed this.
enforcement agency.
I routed this to internal staff, development services, building commissioner, and I routed it to Ms. Mitchell, who is on the zoning board of
I
appeals.
mean, they can chime in, but they don't have to, we have to have a public hearing, which is, no, they don't accept it. No, right. Once the town meeting approves it, then the zoning board does the enforcement.
That's why it's called appeals.
Okay.
Yeah. The planning board holds public hearings and recommends to town meeting zoning bylaw amendments, which this is. I have run this by the building commissioner, who is the staff of the Board of Appeals, and Ms. Mitchell, who is on the Zoning Board of Appeals, who is mostly their most active member.
Right.
Who's an attorney, who has she's looked at this and the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. I've given them to, so the other ZBA members, they've been available, but I specifically emailed it to them.
Any other questions on this article?
And then, there's ineligible structures. You can't put them in campers, accessory dwelling units, just, actually, accessory buildings to a principal dwelling. I have principal dwelling in one place and lawful in another, so I will correct that.
You gotta be fixed, yep.
Like item 7.5.3,
Huh?
I like 7.5.3-9. Would that be the owner or whoever is responsible for?
The owners.
The owner. The owner who gets the special permit.
Any other questions?
I don't say anything about parking.
Huh?
Yeah, one per, just like the ADU.
What section? I had it in there. Oh, 7.3,
0.4.
7534.
Again, principal dwelling unit.
Yeah, I will change the lawful to principal. That's easy.
Okay, so can I have a recommendation to, a motion to move this towards the select board as per the other articles, once he changes the wording of the...
I'll change it.
As corrected.
As corrected.
How's that?
Whose
Can I
motion?
have a motion for that?
So made.
Second?
Who seconded it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we close that hearing, please? A motion to close that hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second? Have a second? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so on the 30th, we will be attacking the largest article.
Do we have to sign anything for the ones we just approved?
No.
No, you approved a recommendation.
Okay.
We'll be sending those to the select board
Okay.
for inclusion into the warrant and recommending approval to
And that'll say that in the warrant,
Yeah.
too,
yeah.
Okay.
as requested, suggested by the planning board.
All right, item number 10, general business, we need to review
What about 9?
I think that was what we just talked about.
That was 9, we just did.
I'm sorry. If they close.
Under general business, we need to review the meeting minutes of Thursday, December 19th.
I read those minutes. I had no corrections, changes.
Same here. Motion to approve minutes of December 19th.
Got us. All in favor?
24. Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Karen.
The draft.
We have to sign that
I
other.
have those.
Yeah.
We'll do that at the end of the meeting.
Okay,
Pretty much there.
any other business? Bill?
No, just to point out that the next meeting is January 30th. Our normal meeting would be the 23rd, so it's the last Thursday, and it's in the Great Hall. And I gave that to you on that sheet that showed the whole year. So it's the 30th, and the only item will be the floodplain wetlands aquifer.
That's the only item?
That's the only item, and hopefully the minutes.
Now, does that have to be posted for public hearing?
It's already open, we're just continuing.
Right, we're continuing it.
Oh, the public hearing requirements for this were, I had to do them individual articles, individual notices. So there's seven individual notices in the paper. I had to send all of these to all the adjacent communities, plus the 2 regional planning agencies, plus the state. So,
Plus the abutters.
huh?
Plus the abutters.
I did send the,
Park Street.
I sent the rezone, I sent to the abutters, all 3 of them, to abutters within 300 feet, but I did not send them certified mail because I just sent them a regular letter, because we don't, technically, you're not
Required to do that,
You're
right.
not even required to send abutter notices, but in talking with Dan, I said, I'm going to send a notice. We're not going to spend planning board budget at $8 a certified. We're going to send them, we just sent notice, we sent a notice prepaid to, a regular mail. And as you see, and I figured the Park Street would get the people.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.